Hey, good Tuesday morning, my friends. MLive Chief Meteorologist Mark Torregrossa here with the MLive Morning Weather Update. I'm cold this morning, so this is what you get. I'm dressed like a lumberjack. Complex situation. It took me a while, I'll be honest. It took me a while to figure out what's going to happen, and I think I know. So let's get to it. Getting a lot of reports this morning of various quick, nasty conditions. I'll show that to you. We've got an area of snow moving across the eastern side of the state. Right now, Pontiac reporting heavy snow, quarter-mile visibility. Saw it also in Port Huron. You know, anywhere in the eastern part of the state, you could have an hour or two of this burst of snow. Gets very slick. Now, Manistee area, Ludington area, the marine layer, that's the warm layer over the top of Lake Michigan, is coming on shore, and the snow has changed over to freezing rain. Should be short-lived, should be like an hour of that kind of situation. But one of our weather folks here, Carmelita Tiffany, says, you know, it's 24 degrees. How can it be raining? Well, it's 24 at the ground. That's very heavy, stubborn, cold air. You get to 1,000 feet to maybe 5,000 feet, maybe it's 35 degrees because the lake is still so warm. So you get a lot of weird stuff like that. And then we got the Alberta Clipper to figure out, and that's what we will try to do here. And we'll start with where the advisories are at. It tells you about the Alberta Clipper. It doesn't tell you about the windy conditions this morning, the slick conditions in Saline, someone's reporting, Cadillac, windy conditions. But you see the winter weather advisory in effect for, you know, Traverse City south to Big Rapids, over to Tawas, over to Standish, into the Bay City area, Saginaw, Midland in the winter weather advisory, and the thumb for the coming storm system. So here's the radar. And like I said, where you see this darker blue, right along I-75 almost, or just coming up on it, that's a burst of some heavy snow. So you're going to have a treacherous go in the next couple of hours, even though it's probably only up to 2 inches. And then you'll notice the little pink Ludington, Manistee there. That's where the freezing rain has been reported. Again, this should be the back end of this little weather system, and it should be moving out. Then our attention will focus on the Alberta Clipper that's more robust. And how far north does the 33, 34, 35 degree air look? How does travel look Friday morning to Glenview? Okay, but you got to keep updated because these are fast-moving systems. So here's the snowfall today. This is noon. I think this is probably a little slow based on what the radar looks like right now. I think by noon, 1 o'clock, it's off the east coast of Michigan. Hey, good morning, folks. Hey, we got a lot of folks on here. This is MLive Chief Meteorologist Mark Torregrossa, and thanks for joining me on the MLive Morning Weather Update. We do this every morning. I usually do it around 9:30, plus or minus 10 minutes, something like that. And we go into everything that you can't on, say, if you get your traditional weathercast on TV. So here we go. So here's the radar forecast. And again, we'll dry out this afternoon. If you're looking to travel this afternoon, probably 3 to 6 o'clock is your best time. So you have a chance to get toward freezing and get the roads a little bit better for a few hours. This is midnight. So in the late evening hours, this is 9, 10, 11, midnight. In the second half of the evening, snow. And where you see a darker blue, that is heavy snow. Will be developing in the late evening hours toward midnight. Muskegon, Grand Rapids, Kalamazoo, through Lansing, Jackson, Ann Arbor, Detroit, Flint. And this is 1 in the morning, 2, 3, 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning. So that heavy snow lifts northward to Saginaw, the Thumb, maybe to Traverse City, definitely Cadillac, Big Rapids, and there's a little warm wedge comes in 5 in the morning, and the snow changes over to rain, I would say, from Grand Rapids to Lansing to maybe Flint for a couple of hours. This is 8 in the morning on Wednesday, and then as the storm pushes off, the cold air comes back down in, changes everything back to snow, and by 1 or 2 in the afternoon, it's essentially over across lower Michigan, and then the lake effect starts to develop on the west side of the state on a northwest wind, and we go into Wednesday night with the lake effect and with one of these heavy dominant bands perhaps cutting across Kalkaska to the Grayling area, even into the Thumb. We've had that already twice this year. All right, so here's the deal, folks. Normally, this might be a little bit of a rant. Normally, by this time, the snow starting 12 hours from now, 12 hours from now, all of the models are almost exactly the same, just, maybe 10-mile difference, maybe an inch or two difference, something like that. We still have a big spread. European model, which is usually one of the better models, keeps the snowband south as far as the heaviest snowfall accumulations, but it doesn't jive with what it's saying as far as the center of the storm. Center of the storm, it wants to have north through central Michigan, which would put the southern half in a mix toward morning, lower the snow amounts, but its snow placement is odd to the south. Another model they like, NAM, the North American model, looks really too far south. These models that I'm showing you, the high resolution rapid refresh, usually the go-to models at 12, 24 hours out, a little farther north. So that's why you have me. I think we've picked out the right one, I'm hoping. And so another thing that's going to happen here is that burst of snow, midnight to 4 a.m., will be heavy. And then the southern half, I would say from Flint to north of Grand Rapids southward, changes to rain, mashes it down, and then the backside is only an inch. So you get kind of a deceiving amount in Ann Arbor and Detroit because you get in the middle of the night. So here we go with the storm system. Remember, this chart already has the inch or so from what's occurring now. So this is the snowfall expected with the next system before the lake effect kicks in. So I would call this a good solid 4 to 6 inch snow, using a line maybe from Big Rapids to Saginaw into the Thumb northward. Now, on that southern edge of that 4 to 6, where you get the mix, you might mash down some. Now, you see places like Ann Arbor and Detroit, 2, 3, 4 inches. That's the burst in the middle of the night, and then it melts some probably. Grand Rapids also. So, and then we start to add on the lake effect in your classic areas, Kalkaska, Mansalona, Traverse City area, Cadillac, Leelanau County, Manistee County, areas like that. So there's your snowfall. Let me just show you one thing here on this. The temperature pattern. So we're definitely cold today. We could make it to 32 in the south, 30 in Saginaw, upper 20s north. Let's go through the night. Let's go to 5 a.m. A lot of models are showing this, and it's what I call the marine layer. We're going to get a stiff southwest wind. So the air over Lake Michigan is significantly warmer because there's a huge area that's still 40 degrees or more. So that marine layer drifts into our air across lower Michigan, gets us to 37 in Grand Rapids, 33 in Flint, 36 in Jackson, 35 in Detroit. And then you see Saginaw and Big Rapids northward staying about 32 or lower. And then as the storm passes, quickly on Wednesday morning, the temperatures go back down until we back down into the 20s in the afternoon. Okay, so now the next thing to look at, that is, I think there's a warm-up, a relaxing of the cold air coming. I've been watching this for a couple of days, and it's time to jump on it. It looks like it, again, mid-December, December 15th to 17th it starts, and it may last toward Christmas, it looks like. So what we're looking at here is the surface temperature anomaly. Now, don't get me wrong, we got some bitterly cold air for this time of the year coming on the weekend. Okay, and you'll see that right here. This is Saturday and Sunday. And what does this say? This says that our temperatures will be close to 20 degrees colder than normal. Okay. So if your normal highs are 35-ish, you know what minus 20 off of that is. In the teens, yeah, for highs. Now, then as we get to the December 17th, December 18th, we start to go slightly warmer than normal, 4 or 5 degrees warmer than normal. So at that point, if your normal high is 32-ish, you add on 5, you're upper 30s to near 40. This is December 18th, 19th, 20th. Everything kind of shows as we get to the 20th, 21st, 22nd, we get a larger area of warmer than normal conditions, and we're just on the northern edge of that. This is Christmas Eve right there. And what does that say? That says we're about normal in the mid-30s, meaning the cold, extreme cold maybe wears off. I also talked to you about, the European seems out of sync. So here's its forecast for tomorrow. It takes that low pressure center across Grand Rapids to Lansing, and from the low pressure center southward you get a mix, but yet it also wants to have the heaviest snow down there too. And then really nothing meaningful after that. Small Alberta Clippers, it can be 1 to 3 inches. There's one on Saturday into Sunday. Somebody was asking about Friday to Glenview, Illinois. And there's Friday afternoon, so you're all right. It's not terrible, and we don't see anything really huge out into the future. And we start to also see more rain showers, a sign that we start to warm up. So today, low 30s in the south might help the roads some. Hey, Larry56, thank you for the report. Makes me wonder how many forecasters understood how much the lakes affect our weather. You learn real quickly. Wednesday, tomorrow, from Grand Rapids to Flint southward, you make it to 35. That's at 5, 6 in the morning, and then falling temperatures. Thursday's colder in the 20s. Friday's cold in the 20s. Saturday's even colder, highs only in the teens to 20 degrees. Sunday is the coldest. Let's see. Galen Hamelink. I have to drive from Grand Rapids to Detroit on Thursday afternoon. What are the roads east and west looking like Thursday? Well, Thursday should be a dry day, but remember, it's high temperatures only in the mid-20s, so I think you're okay as far as winter travel goes. Sunday, cold. Monday, cold. In the teens, single digits. Tuesday, cold. And then remember, I showed you the upper atmosphere starts to warm, so we maybe go to the mid-30s. Here's December 18th, 30s, and December 19th in the 30s, maybe a 40. December 20th, 21st, 22nd, 23rd. So I don't dare use the word warm, but it will certainly be a lot warmer than what it's going to be over the weekend. And it looks like the Arctic cold will relax a little bit. Is this a sign of a flip-flop as we go into January? A couple of things. One of my friends, Judah Cohn, PhD in meteorology, studied a lot of this, and he said that he hasn't found a big correlation to January and February after cold December. So, your natural instinct would be that cold December, we're going to be cold into January and February. It could go either way. We have the La Nina in force now. This is a classic La Nina pattern, but the La Nina is expected to fade pretty quickly by sometime in February. And sometimes there's a lag where it's fading, but it's still a La Nina effect. So the rest of the winter still, I feel like the cold will come back because it's hard to beat snowpack built over southern Canada, the Dakotas, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan. If you start to get some ice on the lakes, I look at some of the area inland lakes already forming ice. All of those things help the cold air come down. They say, come on down. So we'll be back into it, but it does look like we'll get a break, and I think it probably lasts into after Christmas. And then the next transition to cold would be when our next widespread snowstorm would occur. So there's your weather update. I will try to keep you updated best I can. I'm calling it a kind of a complex situation. So in this kind of case, I like to bring it back to the simple map, simple graphics, so I don't confuse you. So that's what you'll find on MLive today. I'm working on that now, and we'll see you again back here tomorrow. Take care.